Hey guys, so we're here back at the UK Game Expo carrying on our live streams here. I'm here with Tristan from All or Nothing.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about 1066 in a very little bit. But the first thing we're going to be talking about is this amazing Geek and Sun table here that you're sitting behind.
This is an amazing table.
It is superb, and this is going to be part of our raffle prize for this weekend. So we're working with Geek and Sun, and all you've got to do is go over onto their website, which is linked at the top of our live blog, fill in a very little small questionnaire. It's a very simple question to answer. Fill in all your details and things like that. Pay about £5 to get into entry with a raffle ticket, which is pretty cool. You can go and do this after this.
Yeah,
fantastic. And then, if you're lucky enough, you could be walking away with an amazing Geek and Sun table of your own to play some of the games we've been showing off here on the live streams with on tabletop.com. But yes, Tristan, All or Nothing.
Hello.
Who are you guys, and sort of what do you do? And then we're going to dive into 1066. And immediately, I can hear Lloyd's cries of pain because he's like, "No, I love the Dark Ages. Why am I not involved in this?" But I get to be lucky one that does this. So yes, go for it. Go for it. And tell us who you are and what you do. So
cool. Okay. Well, my name's Tristan from All or Nothing, as you said. We released a game last year called Gloom of Kilforth, which is our first Kickstarter. We kickstarted it in 2015. It took a couple of years to fulfill because we had like 300 unique images in the game, which is
I was going to say, I remember some of the amazing artwork for that one. It was absolutely superb. It was very good.
Thank you. Well, I didn't do the artwork, obviously, but no, we're very happy with
it.
But
it is amazing.
And
take the credit.
Oh, yeah, no, I did everything. And so it was really well received, and it sold out within a couple of weeks, which was great. We got Tabletop Gaming Magazine gave it one of the top 10 games of the year, excuse me. And so we were really happy with that, and we went straight back to Kickstarter with it to do a reprint. But it was important for me to not be pigeonholed into being the one fantasy game guy. So the second Kickstarter that we actually pushed was this for 1066 Tears to Many Mothers.
Show this off on the tabletop, as you can see. Very, very cool.
So pretty. So, so again, we've gone a bit mental on the artwork. It's a 1 to 2 player card game that recreates the Battle of Hastings, and we've got something like 150 unique images in this game as well. So the game is based heavily on the history of the events leading up to and including the Battle of Hastings. So every card in the game is sort of is based on a real person, real character, a real event, or a real unit that's fed into the.
I'm just going to show this one off here that we spied when we were just setting things up. But for example, you've got the Haley's comment thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, that lovely, lovely artwork.
So,
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Haley's comment was like a key event in terms of signalling the imminent destruction of England as people knew
Old
at the
England
time.
as it was.
And I have to get asked about the title Tears to Many Mothers, which is a quote that I read by Alma of Malmesbury, who said that, well, he must have been old enough to seen Halley's Comet coming around again. So he was writing about it. He said, "You've come, have you? I see you brandishing the downfall of my country, and I hate you.
Wow.
I hate you, you source of tears to many mothers."
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's a fantastic quote. We're going to run with that one.
Yeah.
So that's where we get the title of the game. And of course, at the time, 1,000 years ago, these peasants were looking up at the sky and this blazing comet.
And stuff.
Yeah, it was a quarter of the size of the moon because it was in its perihelion orbit, so it was fantastically bright in the sky. And they did think, that's it, it's the end of the world. And in a way, for the Saxons,
for a lot of people, it was.
Yeah, and for the Normans, they thought it was a good omen. Oh, it's time to go and invade the Saxons. So that represents in the game as like a free objective, which gives both players a turn to sort of bring in a few units and stuff and get used to the opening gambit of the game. And then after the Halley's Comet objective, you move on to a series of themed missions that each player has to go through that William and Harold had to overcome. So, for example, here we've got William mustering the war council at Rouen, trying to get as much support for the battle as he could, and then it goes on to trying to get papal support. So he didn't just want a war against the English, he wanted to turn it into a holy crusade and get the Pope's backing to...
I was going to say, because he wanted to legitimise his claim when he eventually got to England and claiming it, because obviously there'd been the whole back and forth between him and Harold,
the claimants,
course,
many claimants, and Harold saying that, I was promised it on the deathbed. Then William goes off to dedicate an abbey to his wife Matilda. So each of these represents sort of... not battles, but like internal struggles or power struggles that William had to go through. Whereas the Normans setting sail here, which we've got, is them waiting for the storms to abate because they had all kinds of trouble crossing the channel. They lost ships and troops along the way. Then he, of course, invades Sussex, and At this point, we'll come back to, but Harold's not there. So to tease him out and try and get Harold to come down, he starts raping and pillaging and destroying the south of England.
And then, of course, the battle itself.
The final battle, yeah.
And so these give you an indicator going forward as you're playing through the game, introducing like the start of it, and then getting things progressively more complicated as things go on.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're also giving you the opportunity to try and build up your forces as you play proceeds. Yeah. So the meat of the game is beating your way through these objectives whilst bringing in as many cards as you can that are going to bulk up your army on either side of the table here. So if you think of those in terms of like flashbacks, narrative flashbacks for what both characters had to overcome to get to the battle in the first place, Harold's objectives are similarly themed.
I was going to say, do they have different artwork on them as well? I'm going to reach over here because, oh my god, I love Saxons. Let's go over here. Right, let's check these out.
So again, it starts off with Halley's Comet, but then straight onto the Battle of Fulford. So the Vikings have invaded the north, as if it wasn't bad enough that William is making a claim. You've got the most badass warriors in history rampaging through the north of England, where Edwin and Morcar were soundly defeated and ran off to hide.
Because they took over from Tostig, didn't they, up in the north?
That's right, Tostig was ousted for being a traitor and betraying his people. Harold's treacherous brother, and he features heavily in the game as well. But here we've got the Battle of Stamford Bridge. So, of course, revenge. The Saxons marched north from London and beat world records that still haven't been beaten in 1,000 years for marching that many land troops, thousands of troops,
and
in
it was
4
insane,
days
wasn't it?
over an insane distance. And then getting there and battling the Vikings and defeating them forever. So you've got all these games about Vikings, but how many do you see about the Saxon that killed the Vikings forever? You know,
ended the Viking
the Viking reign. So if Vikings were bad, Saxons were crazy. Anyway, so then they march back down south. Here we've got him praying at Waltham Abbey. So there are a number of different historical interpretations as to what happened here. But for a few days, Harold was held up, either because he was a pious man and he was praying, or because he was recovering from the rigours of battle with the Vikings, or because he was suffering from a paralysis that he had in youth. But for whatever reason, he's overcoming a personal struggle there. And then having to gather his forces again in London, because of course at this point the Fjord had done their job and they'd fulfilled their oaths and gone back to their town. So now he had to get a new army.
Because that was the big thing, wasn't it? Because he brought that army up and he defeated the Vikings, and they thought they'd maybe abated what was happening with the Normans, and then coming back down south, they all wandered off, as you say, and he was like, oh my god, we need to work out how we're going to bring forces together to defeat the Normans.
He had to hurry it up because of course the Normans were laying waste the south in Sussex. So he gathers his forces and they meet at Hastings, and that's where the sort of final battle of the game takes place.
And immediately, just from what you've been saying here, this seems like you guys have gone very, very in depth with the historicity of everything that we're seeing here, which is a crazy new word that I've just made up, but I'm fairly sure that it is real. I'm sure Ryan will challenge me on that later.
History and accuracy together at last.
But yeah, so you guys have really gone in depth with like planning out this period and showing off how it all came together. So if anyone is sitting down to play the game, they're not only getting a really interesting game, which I'm sure we're going to get into the mechanics of very, very soon, but also a little bit of a history lesson at the same time, which is cool, so.
I mean, this is one of those battles that stayed with me as a kid. You know, it was knights and castles and you know, fighting and Saxons and Vikings and all that stuff. But researching the history of the game set my mind ablaze with all these ideas, like all these crazy stories that came up during the battle, and how to sort of represent them in the game. So, you know, at one point at Hastings, the battle was so thick that the bodies were piled so high on either side, the Saxons and the Normans couldn't reach each other to fight, so they took a break for food. So we've got a break for food card in the game.
How civilized. It's like,
you know, and so there's all these really crazy, interesting sort of side stories in the game that I've tried to crowbar in every sort of detail that you can think of. You know, in the Bayeux Tapestry, Harold's represented as being killed by the assassin knights that broke through and maimed and mutilated him, but he's also depicted as having the arrow in the eye. Historians tend to believe the first account more because that's backed up by accounts at the time.
And there was something, I might be wrong, but there was something about how William then was very, very angry with them because they'd killed a king.
This honourable king,
and he punished them for it as well.
Because I think they got carried away in their bloodlust of battle.
Exactly.
But we've kept an arrow in the eye card in the Norman deck as well, just in case to sort of satisfy that.
The person that wove that tapestry is now going to be happy with that. So.
My work is done. So we've tried to recapture all of that, all of the stories, all of the characters, all of the names of the characters and the units and everything that were taken from.
Are all completely accurate with the time period.
Hopefully. I mean, from going off the information that we have, it's 1,000 years back in time, so we've got limited sort of resources to look at. But in researching the game, I just got to bury my nose in books about it,
which is superb,
which is great fun, and then just go through with a highlighter pen. That'll be a great card. That'll be a cool guy. And then in the Doomsday book, you've got the list of all the key vassals and knights that were present at the battle. So it also tells you how many ships they brought over from Normandy and things like that. So you've actually got stats straight away.
Good.
So then you've got like it'll tell you Bishop of Odo brought over maybe 100 ships from Normandy, which makes him one of the most powerful and influential vassals. He was William's half brother. So in the game, he's high value, a high cost character. He's got high strength. And then if you've got a weaker character in the history, someone like Wigot of Wallingford, who sort of sold out to the Normans, he's a low-cost Saxon card that's only like got 1 strength or is free to bring in. So obviously it's a card game, so it's a huge extrapolation of the events of the time, but I've tried to inject as much sort of history into the mechanics.
So take us through a little bit about how the mechanics work in a general turn then. So
absolutely. Okay. So in each at the start of each game, you've got a hand of 6 cards. Which come to the camera. And both sides have completely asymmetrical decks, all based on the characters or units that were represented on each side. And here we've got the Norman cavalry, obviously a key unit for William's forces. These guys are, medium expense. It would cost you 3 cards to bring that card into play. So your cards in hand are your resources as well. So you'll be discarding 3 other cards.
So you've immediately got to make choices based on the hand of cards.
Who you want to bring in.
Do you think, well, maybe I'll leave Hugh at home in order to bring out some of these cavalry units?
Hughes expensive again. Oh, well, he's, 3 cost just to bring in this 1 character, but he's got a bunch of special abilities. His stats are average, but he has this symbol here, this green rosette, which actually means once he's in play in the battlefield, you can tire him. We're not allowed to say tap. Copyrighted.
One of those other terms.
You can turn him sideways, and he will generate a resource, which reduces the cost of another card by 1.
Oh, cool.
So then you don't have to discard as many cards. So cards like Hugh d'Avranches are great to bring in to help you in that respect, but they're also come in with a big target on the head, because then the Saxons are going to be like, well, let's put some arrows
get rid of
him.
This guy.
Exactly,
Stop the reinforcements coming in as easily.
And the game rewards you for sort of trying to recreate the battle as it was fought. So here we've got the Norman cavalry. When you bring in a card, you choose one of 3 wedges to bring the card into play.
So you can see there are spaces on the maps here.
Playmat here. The playmat's an additional add-on you can purchase separately. But basically, each army is formed by 3 wedges and 3 rows. And what you're trying to do is maneuver them into the appropriate places.
So if you take some of these and show us how it will sort of be laid out on the top.
So if I already had Hugh in play now, when I bring a card in, it would slide up to the top spot. But if I bring in the cavalry on the 3rd row, where William had his troops right at the back, his cavalry were at the back, their ability is to be boosted. Their might goes up by 1 when they're in the rear row. Similarly, Harold will have house calls. He fought side by side with the house calls. So if you can play his house calls into the front row on the Saxon side, they'll get a boost to their strength.
Building up that shield wall of defence.
Exactly,
So it's got that thematic edge to the combinations you're playing down on the tabletop.
Hopefully, it's like that's what they were designed for. The house calls were in the front ranks, leading the troops, like Harold, leading by example. You've got various card effects that each unit or character is unique, but you have, for example, the leaders themselves, William and Harold, can also
we're just going to show off William here under the camera.
So you can, the leader ability on both sides is to tire them, or turn them sideways, and they can maneuver other units around the battlefield. So you could move those cavalry into position, or bring them into a different wedge if that wedge needs shoring up, because there's more Saxons on that side.
Acting like a commander would during the period in battles and stuff like that as well.
Correct, But if a character does use an action like that, like tiring or moving other units around, once they're tired, they can't contribute to the battle this turn. They can't be involved with either the objective battle or the wedge battles, which is
so they're doing something more tactical, rather than being
it's going to give you a long-term benefit, but the short term is that they're out of action for that round.
And so when you've got your hand of cards, you draw. Was it 5? You said at the.
You start off with 6 in hand.
Start with 6 in hand,
and then you play down. You basically play until you've both passed. Once you both pass, the round ends, and you attack the objective. The objective cards.
Which of us we were saying was going to be Haley's Comet to begin.
Haley's Comet is a freebie, so that's a passes by. But if we skip on to what we've got here.
I can't remember what it was now.
This'll do. Invasion of Sussex.
Perfect, yes.
Okay, so we'll pop that down.
I was actually changing history around. I was rearranging the events.
Well, you can do actually. I mean, we advise you to play these through in narrative order, like the actual history was, but the backs are the same. So once you played it a few times,
you could do some shuffling.
You could shuffle it up. Yeah, you can mix it up a bit. Narratively, it wouldn't make much sense, but mechanically, it gives you a little bit of a.
So yes, you've both played all your cards you want to play down to the tabletop,
so you're about
and then
to
you come to one of these.
Correct. So, for example, if we had these Normans in play, but they were all tired out, the only person who would be able to attack that objective would be this cavalry here. Yeah. So he'd be attacking it with 2 might, but the objective has 3. So he wouldn't do any damage to that because you do damage equal to the difference.
Right.
However, if we had William and Hugh still in play, we'd have 3 from William, 1 from Hugh, and another 2 from the cavalry. For a total
that would be enough
6.
to get through this.
And that would do 6 damage, minus 3 because of the might here. So you're doing a total of 3 damage to that objective. So you'd stick 3 damage tokens on the card.
And you can see these here. So
these are placeholders. The actual final versions will be in teardrop shape to match the teardrop.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
That's actually one of our backers came up with that idea.
Yeah.
They were hearts originally, but he said, "Why not tears?" And I was like, "Brilliant idea."
It goes with the sort of
the name of the game.
Well, so,
yeah. The name. Yeah. So. So once you've done 6 damage to an objective, you would defeat that objective and move on to the next one. So that's how you're racing through these objectives whilst trying to build your forces on either side of the battlefield at the same time. Once you've arrived at Hastings, so after you've battled through all of these
all the different events that we've been looking at,
you have to fight each other, and so it all spirals into a bloody ruckus between the 2 teams. At which point you're fighting for these wedge cards. So the Battle of Hastings was fought over.
In the middle here.
Yeah, that's right. These they were fought over 3 wedges of troops, and each wedge represents a couple of thousand troops. So what you'll be doing is comparing your might to the enemies. So here we'd have William and Hugh. Well, you'd hope at the end of the game you have a lot more cards in play than this, but here we've got 3 plus 1 from Hugh is 4 against Harold's might of 3. So they win, and the difference is 1, so they do 1 point of damage to that wedge. Once you do 10 points of damage to a wedge, which would represent the deaths of a couple of thousand enemy troops, you claim that wedge. And if you claim 2 wedges, you win the game.
Cool. And again, I'm just going to show off these because the artwork is fantastic on these. There's actually like a little bit of a panoramic thing based on what you see from the game mat there, which goes across showing the Battle of Hastings. Fantastic.
So yeah.
Brilliant, yeah.
It all comes to a bloodbath at the end. And there are alternative victory conditions as well. If you manage to pop enough arrows in the enemy leader and kill the leader before the game ends, you'll win.
Then that's a different kind of victory condition. That's very cool.
So you have to watch out for Unhorse the Duke cards if you're William, or Arrow in the Eye cards if you're Harold. Yeah. And there are other archery troops that you can use where you tire those guys to fire arrows over to the other side and do damage to the other guys.
So you've got the supporting abilities coming through and affecting not just the frontline troops, but everything at the back as well.
Yeah, we tried to mix it up as much as possible with the abilities so that each card is interesting and unique. We've got agile troops like the Norman Maceman here who can move himself. He doesn't actually need to be commanded. He can move over to other wedges by tiring. There are archer cards who will... Oh, get close up on that one. There's event cards which you can play out. They're one-shot cards. Here we've got the arrow in the eye. You can just do direct damage to a troop or to Harold himself, and then that goes straight out of place. It's like an instantly resolved effect. We've got characters who... Here we've got Eustace, the Count of Boulogne, who led the Flemish troops, so he reduces the cost of Flemish cards to bring in. And he also has a resource here which you can use to pay for other cards. And you've got learned characters who were ecclesiastical or clergymen type characters who, when they come into play, they're allowed to draw an extra card, and card draw is quite valuable in the game as well.
Yeah,
you've got a maximum hand size of 6, so you have to be juggling which
cards. I was going to say as well, the deck is exceptionally huge as well, so there's a lot of chances for you to play the game through one time and have an entirely different experience the second time, because you might not see the same cards.
Yes.
So while you're seeing the same events and eventually the same battle plays out on the tabletop, the journey there can be very different. So you've got to think like William and Harold and be on the ball.
Or Norman or Saxon.
Yeah.
Well, the decks are huge because of the Kickstarter. We were able to unlock loads of extra content.
That's really cool.
The extra content that we had planned, which is good. So there's every character that we could think of is in the game, and every sort of unit and effect. And as you say, you probably won't go through the whole deck in the first couple of games because you're only drawing 2 cards each round.
That's another key thing that I think is very important, because there are games a little bit like this where if you go through the entire deck, well, you know that you can effectively hit that strategy at some point during it.
Yeah.
But because you're not going to go through the entire thing, you are forced to think on your feet.
You're playing tactically for what you want.
And you're doing moment-to-moment stuff, which is cool. And of course, you're also doing a little bit of planning ahead when it comes to some of the main characters.
A little bit of strategy, a little bit of tactics.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. We do offer alternative play modes as well, so you can play it solo, you can play against the game itself. There's like bot rules that will control either William or Harold, and you can choose varying degrees of difficulty, which is simply a case of flipping over a card from their side and then the rules will tell you whether or not that comes into play and where it comes into play. So it's something to sort of get your head around the mechanics, or if you're a solo player, it's a great way to play through it with different troop setups or different difficulty settings.
Yeah.
There's also a drafting mechanic for if you have played it a few times and you are used to it, and maybe you start to think of, I want an archer strategy, or I want a resource generating card strategy. Then you can draft for those cards. So as long as you both agree beforehand, you can draw 3 cards and discard 1, or you can draw 4 cards and discard 2. And that way you will rattle through your deck a bit faster. But there is the added victory condition then that if you do run out of cards, you lose.
So you've got another element of strategy there in the deck management.
For more experienced players who know what they're trying to fish for, because there might be, at first you'll be discovering what the cards do and everything when you're playing through it the first time. But once you've got a handle on the decks, and you might want to give it a more tactical approach.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm really liking the look of this. It looks absolutely fantastic. As I say, I'm a big fan of the Dark Age period, as most of the people on tabletop actually are. Like, a lot of us have been delving into things like Saga, if you know that tabletop game at all. There's a miniatures game which is superb, and so it's really nice to see other avenues for you to get into tabletop gaming other than just the miniature side of things.
Yes.
So having the aspect of like card games and board games as well is very, very cool indeed. So
yeah, I wanted it to have the sort of veneer of games like Magic or Lord of the Rings, the card game, and those kinds of games. But
it has the familiarity.
It's a familiar look. It's got great artwork and hopefully fast-playing gameplay. So once you've actually got the rules down, you can play this in about 30 minutes. You could get through a couple of games on your lunch break, for example. Fantastic. Which is what we used to do. So it's a very sort of lighter approach to history in games rather than sort of a X and shit type affair.
Less of the like the high level war game kind of thing, and it comes down to still obviously very in depth, and you've got a lot of mechanical choices and stuff to make, but it's still very familiar with card play and stuff like that.
Back and forth,
and you enjoy drafting and that kind of thing as well. You want the action on the tabletop. That's the big thing as well, I think, and it has that dynamic look to it as well when you see like the back and forth. I like the way that it's all laid out and stuff, and you can get that real sense of a battle flow moving back and forth.
Manoeuvring troops and stuff.
Which is very nice indeed. So, so this is available to come and check out at your booth here at TK Game Expo?
You can certainly come and check out the booth at the Expo. We've got this demo copy on display. The actual game was funded successfully on Kickstarter last year, and this is all of the final artwork. It's at the printers now, so it's going to arrive in the next couple of months, and we'll be fulfilling to backers hopefully this summer. So we're dead excited about it landing because it's been nominated for a couple of awards and stuff already, which is fantastic because it's not actually out. But so far we've only had...
Everyone who's played it enjoyed it then, so
I mean, we've had hundreds of play testers, but it's a different thing again when it arrives in the hands of thousands of backers. So we're really excited to see how people receive it, and if it is received well enough, we've got I've been burying my nose in other historical battles. So, for example, I've been taking advantage of this summer that we've been having in England recently, in the back garden, reading all about the Siege of Malta. So we do have a potential other game called 1565 St Elmo's Pay, which uses the exact same mechanics, because the Battle of Hastings was fought over 3 wedges of troops like in this game. The Siege of Malta was fought over 3 fortresses. So the mechanics dovetail beautifully, but also there's a lot more information about battles more recent in history. So looking for stuff on 1066, it's all interpretation and conjecture. Whereas
you can delve into doing a lot more with what you see with the events,
you
and
can
how
change
the different characters work and stuff like that.
New leaders, and
that period leading up to that final.
What led to the events in the first place, which I really enjoy this mechanic of the different objectives leading up to it, building the backstory before you get down to the the thick and bloody battle. And Malta has these great stories as well, like the 500 Hospitaller Knights and the Maltese people holding out against 30,000 Turks that just wanted to obliterate them from existence. So it's another of these epic battles that shapes European history as it followed. So that's been really exciting as well. And we could make the 2 games could be compatible. So if you weren't bothered about the historical,
you have Normans versus
Normans versus Turks and
which is very cool.
Versus Hospitallers. So.
That's really nice. And obviously you can go a little bit further than that as well. I imagine there might be a couple more battles in the.
I would love to. If people keep coming back, we can pick out the American Civil War or take it up to World War II even. Any number of battles from history.
Cool. So if someone wants to come visit you, what's your booth number here at UK Games Expo? I'm going to put you on the spot now.
I think it's Hall 1 and it's E8.
Yeah, if you need it, you can basically check out the map. All the vendors are listed there, so if you want to go and check this game out and see what it's all about, you can definitely do that. It's been fantastic learning about this. It's a really cool looking game. I definitely need to give it a go myself. I might even challenge Lloyd to some battles in the Dark Ages at 1066. So yeah, very, very cool indeed. I'm just going to give you a reminder that we are giving away this Geek and Sun table, as you see here. This lovely thing here.
Gorgeous.
It's so nice. and it looks amazing with all the games on it as well. But yes, so we're giving this away as part of a raffle. We don't get to keep it, unfortunately, which is a real shame. You can even enter this raffle though, Tristan, if you want to.
Yeah. £5.
Yeah, £5.
Bargain. £5 for a table.
Boston. Get involved with that. All you got to do is follow the link that's at the top of every one of our live blog pages this weekend. You can go on over there, fill in a very, very simple questionnaire. A really easy question to finish it. It's also got to add your details in there as well, and then of course at the end of this weekend you could walk away with this amazing table of your very own in your house, playing games like 1066, getting involved with all that kind of thing as well. I just wanted to actually ask, obviously you do delivering to the Kickstarter backers. Is it coming to retail as well?
I believe so. We've got a conversation with Debian this coming week, and they're very interested. They came over to the booth yesterday. They picked up Blue McKillforth, and they want to pick up this as well. So it will be coming to retail. But if you missed it, you can still late pledge through the actual Kickstarter. There's a button to just late pledge here, and you can still jump on and get either the game or the game in the playmat. Awesome. So when this video comes out, hopefully we'll have some links and stuff so you can go and follow that through and check it out. So yeah, awesome, fantastic talking to you again, Tristan. Thank you so much for having me. Amazing. Yeah, this game looks absolutely fantastic. We're going to be back in a little bit. We're going to take a little bit of a break now. But yes, we're going to have some amazing stuff coming up for the rest of Saturday. Make sure to come back soon and see what we're all doing. And of course, check out the live blog because we're doing some amazing prizes throughout the rest of this weekend. So come and check out all the videos, comment on what you're loving. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you around the convention as well. See you guys very, very soon.